There are moments in life when the silence feels louder than any noise, when prayers go unanswered, when doors remain shut, and when every effort feels like it's falling apart. We begin to wonder, am I really alone in this? Maybe you've asked that question in the quiet of the night with tears no one else saw. Maybe you smiled on the outside while your heart was breaking on the inside. If that's you, then this message was meant to find you today. Because no, you are not alone, not for a second. Even when the world turns away, God never does. You see, his ways are not always visible. His hand doesn't always move in ways we expect, but he is always working behind the scenes, within your heart, and all around you. What looks like silence from God is not absence, it's preparation. What feels like rejection may actually be redirection. While you're waiting, God is weaving together a plan so perfect, you'll look back and thank him for not giving you what you once begged for. This video isn't just words. It's a reminder to your soul that you're seen, that you're held, that heaven has not overlooked you. There is a purpose in your pain and a process in your waiting. And by the end of this message, I promise, your heart will remember that faith isn't about what you see, it's about who you trust. So stay with me, not just to hear these words, but to feel them. Let your soul breathe again. Let your heart rest. Because the truth is, you are never alone, and God is still working. Always has been, always will be. Even in silence, God is near. His presence surrounds you when no one else does. There's a unique kind of pain in silence, the kind that creeps in when you're lying in bed at night, eyes wide open, wondering if anyone notices your struggle. You reach out in prayer and it feels like the heavens are quiet. The phone doesn't ring, the texts don't come, and you're left with your own thoughts echoing in a room full of silence. But silence isn't the absence of God. It's often the space where he speaks the loudest, not in words, but in peace that settles over your heart like a gentle whisper. There are seasons in life when God's nearness isn't felt in a dramatic miracle or a loud voice, but in quiet strength. It's in the way you make it through a day you didn't think you could survive. It's in the calm that suddenly takes over when anxiety was just drowning you a moment ago. It's in the way you break, but you're never completely shattered. That's not luck or coincidence. That's the nearness of God holding you steady, even when it feels like no one else is. His presence doesn't always shout. Sometimes it simply surrounds. People may walk out, friends may get too busy, family may not understand, but God, he never exits your life. Even if you stop talking to him, he's still there, watching, loving, waiting. The pain doesn't scare him. The silence doesn't confuse him. The walls you put up don't push him away. He stays, always. That kind of nearness is unshakable, and it's often in our loneliest seasons that we discover how close he really is. Not just in church, not just in scripture, but in the everyday moments where we desperately need to know we're not invisible. You may be crying in secret, battling a storm no one knows about, but God does. You may be holding everything together for everyone else while falling apart inside, but God sees. You may be walking through something you can't even explain, but God understands. He is near to the brokenhearted, near to those who feel forgotten, near to those drowning in silent pain. And though you may not always feel it, his presence is your steady anchor in a world that keeps shaking. Delays are not denials. God's timing is perfect even when it feels slow. There's something incredibly hard about waiting, especially when you've been praying, hoping, and holding on for so long. You do everything right, you trust, you believe, and still, nothing seems to change. That delay begins to feel personal, like maybe you've been forgotten, like maybe the promise wasn't real. But delay is not a punishment. It's not a sign that God has said no. It's simply a part of his process, a pause with a purpose. Because where you see a delay, God sees preparation. Sometimes we're asking for things that our hearts are not yet ready to handle. God in his love protects us from walking into something that could damage us rather than bless us. We only see the surface, but he sees the whole picture. And so he waits, not to hurt us, but to help us grow, to build our faith, to develop our character, and to prepare everything around us for the moment we're ready to step into what he's promised. The waiting room may feel empty, but it's where some of the most important work happens, on the inside of us. When you look back on your life, you'll notice that some of the best things didn't come when you wanted them, but when you truly needed them. If they had come earlier, you might not have appreciated them or been strong enough to handle them. God's timing is not designed to please our impatience. It's designed to fulfill His perfect will. He's never early, never late, always right on time. But in our limited understanding, it's hard to see that in the moment. That's why faith is not about seeing what's happening. It's about trusting who's in control of the timing. Every time you feel like giving up because the answer hasn't come, remember that God is still writing your story. He doesn't rush masterpieces, and you are His masterpiece. So while you may be stuck in a season that feels stagnant, believe that heaven is not still. God is moving, shaping, building, aligning, and preparing everything for your breakthrough. What feels like a delay to you might just be the perfect setup for something beyond your imagination. Behind every closed door, God is opening a better one you can't see yet. We often treat closed doors as failures, as endings, or even as signs that we're not enough. When an opportunity falls through, when a dream doesn't come to life, when someone walks away, we're left staring at the shut door, wondering what went wrong. But what we don't realize in that moment is that every closed door is divine protection. It's God's way of saying, not this because I have something better. It may hurt, it may disappoint, but it's not rejection, it's redirection. Sometimes God closes doors to protect us from people, situations, or paths that would have harmed us more than helped us. He sees what we can't see. Maybe the job would have drained your purpose, the relationship would have broken your spirit, or the opportunity would have pulled you away from your true calling. In the moment, it's frustrating and confusing, but that closed door is an act of love. It's God stepping in to guide your steps towards something greater, even if it doesn't look like it right away. What feels like loss is often the beginning of a better journey. We often pray for open doors without realizing that part of that prayer involves God closing the ones that are not meant for us. We ask for His will, but then resist it when it doesn't look like what we imagined. Trusting God means trusting that even His no is filled with goodness. When He closes one door, it's because He's opening another one that aligns perfectly with your purpose, your growth, and your peace. It may take time to appear, and it might not look the way you expected, but it will be right and it will be worth it. The challenge is not just walking through open doors, but being patient enough to wait for the right ones and strong enough to walk away from the wrong ones. God doesn't waste anything, not a closed door, not a disappointment, not even your confusion. He is moving things behind the scenes, aligning situations and people, clearing paths and planting seeds that will bloom in the right season. The closed door isn't the end of your story. It's just the beginning of something far more beautiful that's still unfolding. Your pain has a purpose. God is shaping you through every trial. Pain is something we try to avoid, something we fear because it makes us feel vulnerable and weak. But in the grand scheme of life, pain isn't a sign of failure or abandonment. It's often the very tool God uses to mold us into who we are meant to become. It is in our hardest moments that our character is tested and refined, where we learn patience, resilience, and trust. God never wastes our pain. He uses it to strengthen us, build our faith, and prepare us for something greater. The challenges you face aren't pointless. They are steps in the process of becoming who you were created to be. When you walk through pain, whether it's the loss of a loved one, a broken relationship, or personal failure, it often feels like life is falling apart. The weight can feel unbearable, and in those moments, it's easy to question why. Why is this happening to me? Why does it feel like the world is against me? Yet in those very moments, God is present. His hand is at work even when you can't see it, guiding you through the storm. Every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt is not without purpose. He is shaping your spirit, your heart, and your mind in ways you will only understand later. He's building a foundation in you that will hold firm when the winds of life blow. God's purpose for your pain is not punishment, but growth. It's easy to think that God allows suffering as a form of discipline or because He's angry, but that couldn't be further from the truth. The pain we experience is often what makes us more like Him. When we go through difficulties, we are able to empathize with others, grow in compassion, and develop a deeper relationship with God. The greatest leaders, the most influential people in the world are often those who have walked through pain and emerged stronger, with a deeper sense of purpose and understanding. What may seem like the end of the road is often just the beginning of a new chapter. Your pain may feel overwhelming now, but in the end you will look back and see that it was all part of a divine plan. Through each trial, God is with you, holding you, comforting you, and ultimately transforming you. The pain you experience now will not define you, it will refine you. And when you emerge on the other side, you will be a stronger, wiser, and more compassionate version of yourself. You may feel forgotten, but heaven is still watching over you. There are seasons when the silence becomes so loud that it drowns out every reminder of hope. You look around and it seems like everyone else is moving forward, receiving blessings, celebrating victories, while you're stuck, waiting, praying, and wondering if God has skipped over your name. That feeling of being forgotten can be incredibly heavy, and it slowly begins to wear down your spirit. But the truth is, you have not been forgotten. You are known, loved, and remembered by heaven in ways you can't fully see right now. Sometimes what feels like being overlooked is actually a divine pause. It's not that God has abandoned you, it's that He is working things out in a way that will make sense later. While you sit in the stillness, He's fighting battles you don't see, opening doors you don't know about, and shaping your heart for what's coming next. Being hidden for a time doesn't mean you're unworthy. It means you're being protected, preserved, and prepared. Even the greatest stories in Scripture began in seasons of waiting, where the heroes of faith felt unseen and unheard, only to rise in strength when the time was right. Your tears haven't gone unnoticed, and your prayers haven't been ignored. God's memory is perfect, and every whisper from your heart has reached Him. There are things you've been faithful in, seeds you've planted with patience, sacrifices you've made quietly, and God has seen them all. Heaven never forgets. What others overlook, God treasures. The quiet strength you've shown, the kindness you've given, the hope you've held on to, all of it matters deeply. God doesn't measure you by your outward progress. He looks at the depth of your heart. When nothing seems to change on the outside, remember that God is working deeply on the inside. The invisible work He's doing within you is far more powerful than what the world can see. You are not waiting in vain, and you are certainly not forgotten. You are seen by the one who created you, remembered by the one who loves you endlessly, and watched over by the one who never sleeps. Just because people don't see what you're going through doesn't mean heaven isn't fully aware and fully involved. Faith is trusting God's work even when life makes no sense. There are times when everything around you feels like chaos, when nothing aligns with what you prayed for or expected, and when it seems like your life is spinning out of control. You ask questions that don't have answers, you carry burdens that feel too heavy, and you wonder how you're supposed to keep believing when everything is falling apart. But that's when faith becomes more than a word, it becomes your anchor. Not because you understand what God is doing, but because you believe that He's still in control. Faith doesn't mean you'll always feel strong. In fact, real faith often shows up when you're at your weakest, when you're tired of fighting and still whisper, God, I trust you. It's not about having all the answers or feeling spiritual every moment of the day. It's about standing in the middle of confusion and choosing to believe that God is good, even when your circumstances say otherwise. Trusting God doesn't remove the pain, but it gives you peace in the middle of it. It helps you breathe when anxiety is choking your chest, and it keeps you moving forward when your heart wants to give up. Sometimes God will allow things to fall apart so He can rebuild them in a better way. What looks like a setback is often the setup for something greater. But in those moments, the enemy will try to convince you that God has forgotten you, that your prayers didn't matter, or that you're alone. That's when you remind yourself who your God is, not based on your emotions, but on His promises. He has never failed, and He won't start with you. Faith is not built in comfort, it's built in the storm, where you have no option but to lean on Him completely. Even when the road ahead is blurry and the answers are nowhere to be found, faith tells you to keep walking, to trust that God is working behind the scenes, orchestrating things for your good, even if it doesn't feel like it today. You may not understand the purpose of your current struggle, but faith believes that one day you will. It holds you steady when life is anything but stable and reminds you that God's silence is not His absence. It's a deeper call to trust, to grow, and to hold on just a little longer, because breakthrough is closer than you think. As we come to the end of this message, remember that in every season of life, you are never truly alone. God is always with you, even in your quiet moments, even in the pain, even in the silence. His timing is perfect, His plans for you are far greater than you can imagine, and every struggle is shaping you into someone stronger and more resilient. Even when things seem uncertain, God is working behind the scenes, opening doors, closing others, and preparing you for what lies ahead. The road may be hard, but He is with you every step of the way. Trust that your faith, though tested, will lead you to the breakthrough you've been waiting for. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this message. I hope it's brought encouragement to your heart and reminded you that no matter what you're facing, God's presence is constant and His love never fails. If this video has inspired you, please consider subscribing to the channel for more motivational and spiritual content. Your support means the world to me, and I'm so grateful for each of you who are here. Stay strong, keep faith, and remember, you are never alone. Thank you again, and I look forward to sharing more with you in the next video. God bless.